What's up, guys, and welcome to another Under the Microscope video here today. We've got something, I know I say this every time, but it's really much different than anything we've seen before. And if you've been following Standard, the new Standard format, new environment, you'll notice that we're playing basically an archetype that's just been ported over from Standard to Modern. And so the big card of this deck is going to be Oketra's Monument. Now, if you're not familiar with the card, let me read it for you. It says, white creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. So it's also a legendary artifact, so you can't have more than one in play. So just looking at that, reading it, you're thinking, okay, it's an interesting card, but it doesn't seem too powerful, right? But it's important to understand the context. In Standard, you have a lot of white creatures that are aggressively costed and powerful. This is in the form of the Hanwar, the 2/2 that can flip and make other 1/1 tokens. You have Spellqueller, who is a white creature, and can become a 2-mana counterspell basically with Oketra's Monument out. And you have Cloudblazer to generate value. So you have these all these moving pieces, and there's a lot more to it. There's much more to it, and Oketra's Monument just makes all these already aggressively costed creatures cheaper, so you can pump them out faster than your opponent can deploy their threats, and then you just beat them down. And so we're taking a very similar approach. However, Modern both gives us better tools than Standard. At the same time, we have to deal with stronger cards in the metagame. So we get access to removal spells like Path to Exile. We get access to dig spells like Serum Visions. But then we also get access to some very strong white and other cards. So let's talk about some of the cards in the deck. We'll start with Judge's Familiar. It's kind of hard to understand why Judge's Familiar is in the deck, but it's actually a really important card to keep up and slightly out-tempo some of the combo decks in the format. We're not playing a deck that can kill our opponent, very quickly, and we're also not a deck that can easily disrupt our opponent. So we need to employ tools that can, work with Oketra's Monument to generate value, at the same time being able to keep up with decks like Ad Nauseam, with Scapeshift, and the like. So Judge's Familiar, is basically a concession to those type of decks. Now, it's not the most exciting card, but it will net you some value. It can swing for 1 in the air, and you can try to disrupt your opponent along the way by sacrificing it. Now we'll move on to some of the more interesting parts of the deck. White Mane Lion becomes a 1-mana 2/2 that can bounce any one of your creatures back to your hand. And you have a lot of creatures that generate value, even if you don't have Oketra's Monument out, like Reflector Mage, which can bounce your opponent's, creatures. So any creature-based strategy, you can really mess them up, especially with a 2-mana Reflector Mage. You have Wall of Omens, which is a 1-mana draw card that you can then bounce with White Mane Lion. And then you also have Squadron Hawk, which generates value on its own, but you can still bounce it if for some reason you didn't search all of the Squadron Hawks from your deck into your hand. So that's going to be the very basic idea of what White Mane Lion does. You can also return a Spellqueller back to your hand that maybe you just threw out there to apply some pressure, and that way you can get it back to your hand and then counter a spell again on the way back down. So there's a lot of things you can do there that's very synergistic with the deck, all while you're hopefully generating a bunch of 1/1 white warrior creature tokens that can either clog up the board or start attacking, your opponent down. And then you have Sky Hussar, which is a card that, I didn't expect to see here, but it's actually pretty cool. So when it enters the battlefield, you can untap all creatures you control. That's not the most exciting part of it, especially because it doesn't have flash or anything. So it's just going to be, you're basically going to use it for its forecast cost, which is tap 2 untapped white and or blue creatures you control, and you get to reveal Sky Hussar from your hand. And then you get to draw a card. And you can only activate this ability during your upkeep and only once each turn. But if you have multiple in your hand, I believe you can use it multiple times in a turn. And you can just generate a ton of value off your Wall of Omen, Squadron Hawks, your 1/1 white warrior creature tokens, and you can just basically draw a whole bunch of your deck and just not necessarily outvalue your opponent because you're not always removing their threats, but just in general, just clogging the board, making combat very difficult for your opponent, all while hopefully just out-tempoing them and just beating them down. So that's going to be the basic idea, basic gist of the deck in Modern. You also have access to Dusk Dawn, which you have access to in Standard too. But Dusk Dawn is really great for dealing with decks that your small creatures can't necessarily push through. And then you can also use the backside against in the grind, just retrieve all your creature cards basically, and that's going to be all your creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand, and then you start the loop all over again. Basically, we updated the mana base to be modern, modern mana base. You got fetches, you got shocks, you got some check lands. We're still using one of Westvale Abbey though, and I haven't gotten a chance to try it out yet, but I think Westvale Abbey is going to be just as good as it is in Standard. Even though there's decks have access to Path to Exile, and I think that's the reason why they don't run 2 or 3, because there's a lot of decks that have Path to Exile in the format, and having a basically colorless land can be a bit of a liability against a lot of decks in the format. Right, so that's the main board. Hopefully you get an idea of what the deck is supposed to do. Now let's go to the sideboard. Basically just use the sideboard to shore up some of your worst matchups. So I added the 2 extra Path to Exiles in the sideboard just as some extra spot removal. We have 3 negates to deal with combo decks, and an extra Dusk Dawn to deal with some of the bigger decks like Tron. You can even bring it in, sorry, Eldrazi Tron specifically, not just regular Tron. And you get to bring it in against, Shadow as well. And any other decks that you think it might be useful in. So we'll see as we play, of course. We have 1 Relic of Progenitus to pressure graveyard decks, as well as 2 Rest in Peace to do the same. We have 2 Stony Silence to attack Affinity and other artifact-based decks. Celestial Purge. I really like Celestial Purge right now. I think it's really useful in the Shadow matchups, especially. I think it's the kind of card that can exile a Shadow, but then it can also exile a Liliana the Last Hope, or Liliana of the Veil, or Gurmag Angler. Basically hits anything in their deck, which I really like right now. We also have 2 Blessed Alliance. Helps the burn matchup, also helps the Shadow matchup, the Eldrazi matchup, the Affinity matchup. It's one of going to be our few cards that can actually hit an Etched Champion. And then we also have Timely Reinforcements as just a one of, kind of just hedge towards burn or any other aggro style decks, because we don't have any main deck life gain effects. So even though we clog up the ground, burn spells in the can still get us. So I like to have just a little bit of insulation there with timely reinforcements. Also an argument for maybe Lone Missionary in some of these slots, but we're not going to experiment with that today. But if you're thinking about trying new things at home, that could be something you could move towards in the future. All right, so that's the deck, and let me just let you know that this isn't just some brew that I've come up with. This is a list that got a very similar list that got a 5-0 in a competitive Modern league. So this is not just some regular old brew. So this not to say that a 5-0 is means that the deck is great, but it shows you that this deck can compete in the Modern metagame. And hopefully we can see it in action today, and you can understand what it's all about. So I'll see you soon for the first match in Under the Microscope. So stay tuned. See you soon. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first match here with Blue White Monument. We won the die roll, and yes, we would like to play first. Let's take a look at our opening hand here. It's a serviceable opener. I'll keep it. We have a turn 2 Wall of Omens. We have Path to Exile for interaction, and we have some good things to do on turn 3. Let's go ahead and play Glacial Fortress tapped, and pass the turn. See what our opponent is up to here. Hallowed Fountain. Alright, Serum Visions. Could be anything at this point. Could be Jeskai, could be Blue-White Control, could be the Mirror Match, could be a lot of things. Alright. So, no third land yet, but we're digging. Not a third land, but we're digging. Alright, Esper control. Interesting. Alright, there's the third land. Go ahead and shock. But I think end of turn I'm just going to go ahead and run out a white main lion. And I'll keep up Spell Queller in case any shenanigans happens here. Let's see what our opponent wants to do here. Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, let's go ahead and Spell Queller that, right? No worries. If they want to kill it, I mean, they're just getting a Snapcaster Mage at that point. I guess, so the question is, do we want to draw some cards here? I think so. I think dealing damage is less important. So now we get to outvalue our opponent. Ooh, nice. Another land. Great. And now we got the draw engine going here now. We got white main lion to save our Spell Queller from a removal spell. So we're in a good spot. I mean, we love a monument right now, but this is just fine as well. Unless we're going to get hit by a sweeper or something like that here. Thoughtseize. Oof. Okay, that stops our draw engine, right? What no, we can't. We can't. I think we're just going to have to let this resolve. Unfortunately. As much as we love drawing cards, I guess our opponent does not want us to have an uncounterable draw engine for the rest of the game, which is completely understandable. So I guess now we start beating down. I think I'll just cast White Mane Lion targeting our Wall of Omens. We can take this stop off here. If they have a Path to Exile on my Spell Queller right now, it's better that it's being done now. Anyways, ooh, Westvale Abbey, that's not bad. Let's go ahead and just start with attacks here. Attack for 5. Try to get our opponent's life total down. Path to Exile. Ooh. Yeah, this is gonna be quite a 2-for-1 here, right? Yes. Let's get another Plains. Snapcaster Mage comes back into play. Yep. I'll let it go to blocks. If she wants to trade here, that's fine. I'd rather save this Path to Exile for something like a Creeping Tar Pit. Well, there goes our board, right? Alright, so he's going for the path on the White Mane Lion. I think that's fine. I'd rather keep around this Judge's Familiar. Just play a Wall of Omens, it'll just brick this Snapcaster Mage from attacking. Ooh, and there's another Sky Hussar. Yeah, I'll take that. I'd like to draw some cards. I'd like to draw into my my monument. This card is great actually in the grindier matchups. We very often have 2 cards on the board. Alright, looks like they shocked in a land. Yeah, they just put a Godless Shrine untapped. Ooh, 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 my gosh. That's I need to remember to have a stop on my upkeep here. Yeah. Alright. We'll just get in for one here. That's my bad, guys. I apologize. I'm still learning the nooks and crannies of this deck, but we'll get a damage in there. And I guess we can run out a monument here. And I think we'll just pass. I mean, yeah, we're not getting value off of our monument right now. Gifts ungiven. Ooh, this is a gifts deck? Interesting. Okay. Is it Iona? Is it Iona and Unburial Rites? Because that would be pretty rough for us. Because if they name white, basically our whole deck is shut off. Could also just be a value gifts. I'm not sure what this deck is. This could also just be the Goryo's JVP deck with Obsdat. Not sure what the name for that is. That just Esper Gifts, Esper Goryo's. Could be just about anything. But by our opponent taking so long to decide here, I imagine this is just a value gifts rather than a combo gifts like the Unburial Rites combo. But we shall see. We shall see what our opponent can do here. So we couldn't count on that because they had this 1 mana open. And that does absolutely nothing, especially on their end step. It's not like we're cutting them off of any sort of mana. I mean, I imagine when you're looking at your whole deck and have to pick 4 cards with different names, it can take a while, so I understand. Alright, so it looks like they are going... So they have Unburial Rites. They have Goryo's Vengeance. So there's nothing in the graveyard yet, so I kind of want to give them Goryo's... I mean, I kind of want to put that into their hand. I kind of don't want to give them Collective Brutality, and I'm okay with them having a Lingering Souls. Actually, am I okay? So 2 cards put in the graveyard. I think Brutality and Lingering Souls goes to the graveyard. And then Unburial Rites and Goryo's Vengeance can go to their hand. Is this just from their hand? Oh, I guess they had another one. Sure. Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. Alright, looks like they are shocking it in, probably because they don't want to get hit by Judge's Familiar. Yeah, sure. So we're going to just bounce a bunch of them and generate tokens while we're at it. And we're going to draw some cards, of course, because drawing cards is very fun. Lands, great. This is great. Alright, step 1. Always yield. Just get rid of one of their tokens. Do the same here. Play another Judge's Familiar. Now we're in a really good spot. Now we can start attacking with our Vigilance tokens. We can net a bunch of value with Sky Hussar. Yep, there's another Lingering Souls. You're going to smack us for 2 here. I think that's fine. I don't think we need to block with Judge's Familiar. Let's go like that. Draw a card. Well, don't mind if I do. Actually, I think I'd rather use the birds here. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and attack with my warriors. Because they have vigilance, time to pressure our opponent a little bit here. I could have probably attacked with the reflector mage too, but I could have held one back maybe. All right. Sure. Play a Wall of Omens. Just going off here. Just absolutely going off. Oh, right. Oh man. Oh boy. Oh, opponent. You don't even know what you're getting hit by here. Yes. All of them, please. Let's see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. The question is, do we want to keep going, or do we want to try to Westvale Abbey? I think we just want to keep going. Nope. All right. No board sweeper, please. All right, right back at you, opponent. What you got? What have you got for me? We are saving this Path to Exile for the juiciest target. We have some life to work with, so like an Obzadot is something that would eat a Path to Exile. And looks like our opponent just concedes. Alright, good games, opponent, but Ketra's Monument, too strong. And our opponent just leaves the match entirely. So there you go. You got to see the power of Ketra's Monument in this first match here. But stay tuned for another match. Hopefully we'll be able to get to sideboarding in that game. See you soon.